conceptualization of the Hourglass Performance model, we conducted extensive review of research studies in sport performance expertise like biomechanics, performance psychology, and neurophysiology. Data of this research all confirm the shape of the hourglass in a sense that in a preparation of skill execution there's more variability, which is shown by the wide part of the hourglass. However, near the moment of execution there's more consistency, and that is shown by the narrow part of the hourglass shape. In spite of the promising findings in our initial research with elite golfers, we agreed that we needed more evidence to justify the general use of the principles of the Hourglass Performance model to other types of sports performance. We decided to test the HP model by conducting in-depth analyses of different skill level athletes from amateurs to world's best in a wide variety of sports. While observing and examining these competing athletes, HPI utilized objective measures like video analysis of behavioral patterns, physiological parameters related to mental performance, technical execution data, and sport performance outcomes.
The results of our data analyses were quite striking. First, every type of sport exhibited the dynamics and principles of the HP model. We found that athletes, regardless in what kind of sport they competed in, consistently demonstrated all the performance phases of the Hourglass Performance model. However, we also found that each type of sport had its own unique time dynamics for the phases of the Hourglass Performance model. For example, the reactive sports like basketball, volleyball, soccer, American football, tennis often demonstrated shorter time phases for the Hourglass Performance model compared to the time phases that were observed in self-paced sports like golf and shooting.
When we compared the athletes within the same sport, we found that the elite athletes demonstrated the performance phases of the Hourglass Performance model more distinctly and more frequently than the lesser skilled athletes. More specifically, the research showed that elite athletes consistently demonstrated the existence of an optimal Hourglass Performance model profile. Other research studies have confirmed our findings that the elite athletes are more proficient and consistent in their utilization of the functional phases of Hourglass Performance model, especially during the execution phase.
We also examined the effects of stress and emotions on the quality of the Hourglass Performance model. What we found, for example, is that the normal patterns of the performance phases as seen in the optimal Hourglass Performance model were often compromised by performance stress and uncontrolled emotional responses during competition. This was not only observed in the less skilled athletes, but also in the elite athletes. Performance stress and uncontrollable emotions were found to influence the Hourglass Performance model in two ways. Or they would widen and lengthen the optimal Hourglass Performance model when athletes, for example, were thinking more than usual, or they showed signs of hesitation when stressed during their performance. Or excessive stress and emotional responses would narrow and shorten the Hourglass Performance model when, for example, the athlete would make hasty decisions, or they would not gather enough information that was needed for successful sport actions during competition. Maybe the most revealing detail of our research indicated that, regardless what skill level or what type of sport, poor and moderate Hourglass Performance model profiles did not only decrease the likelihood for consistent and quality skill execution, but also lowered the probability for optimal performance outcomes during their competitions. In other words, an athlete's optimal Hourglass Performance model profile was found to provide the highest probability for consistent optimal execution and optimal performance outcomes. The concepts of the Hourglass Performance model is not unique per se, but we at HPI were able to put many performance principles together in a simple but scientifically proven model that can be easily understood and applied for the assessment and training of mental performance in sport. HPI is now able to assess an athlete's Hourglass Performance model profile, and HPI has the means to provide systematic guidance in teaching an athlete to master the optimal Hourglass Performance model for his or her individual needs.